thank you. Thanks for watching the movie. We hope you liked it. So updates.
Yeah, we can update the film a bit. Phil in the film, Phil Fish, he released his game. Some of you may know it came out in April on Friday the 13th.
And it's doing insanely well. It has
really
an
well.
awesome Metacritic score, and people are doing the exact same. They're doing exactly what Phil wanted them to do when he started making this game, 5 years ago. That people are, writing down notes and decoding alphabets and passing around secrets to friends and all that, and it's just going really, really well, and he's happy. And
He's
good.
happy he has a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And Tommy has a girlfriend too, which is exciting.
And he's healthy.
And he's healthy. He has an insulin pump.
Yeah.
What else? Danielle has a second hairless cat.
Yes. And two haired cats. And Tommy and Edmund are now working on an iOS version of Super Meat Boy, and it's kind of like a side. It's a full project, but it's kind of like a side project between Super Meat Boy and official game number 2, which will be coming out sometime. And then we said John Blow, The Witness, is set to release in 2012, and we may have to change that a little bit. And he's working on The Witness, and he's doing very, very well as well. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, we would be happy to answer them. Yeah, go ahead.
What happened to Phil's partner?
Oh,
okay. Do you hear from him, or?
Yeah, they ended up resolving the relationship much more officially after PAX. And so, yeah, they worked it all out, and, they don't talk. It's hard. I think part of it is and why we included it in the film is it's a lot of people start out in a project and they have these really ambitious goals and they're really excited and inspired to work with somebody, and then it doesn't work out. And this has happened to us before. This idea of working on, having a partnership that doesn't work out when you hope it does. And that's sort of what happened. They started working together when, Phil was 21. And, he spent most of, when he says in the film, he spent most of his adult life working on the game. It's true. He's 27 now. That was a big chunk of his life, and I think he's learned a lot since then.
Yeah. I think a lot of people kind of have that kind of failed partnership. It seems to be something that a lot of people go through, and it's just people start with really, really good intentions, but it was a game that they thought was going to take 1 year, and then it took much, much longer, and just things kind of built up, and but we tried to actually cut a version of the film without that in it, but it didn't make any sense because Phil was then just this guy who was miserable at PAX, but for no reason, and because we didn't really, and we ended up including it because it not for just the drama of itself, but because it explained for what it did with Phil. It completely colored. It was just another hurdle for him to get over. And so, what you're seeing there is Phil reacting in the moment to something that was, really, really personal to him. But there's, of course, two sides to the story, and it's, much, much more complicated than just that one scene that we showed. Yeah. Right there. Oh, hey.
Hey, congratulations. It's fantastic. Could you talk just a little bit about how did you come to the story? And also, I'm curious about this unbelievable...
Oh, thanks for
this is why the lights go up early.
We were, this project was born on Kickstarter 2 years ago yesterday. We came up with the initial idea and launched it on Kickstarter, and as a result, everybody that supported us through Kickstarter got a credit at the end of the film. And we didn't realize that...
We thought it would be 300 names, and then it ended up being more.
It's closer to 2,000 names. So we have a 6-minute credit reel, which theaters really love.
Yeah. It's a movie made by 2 people, but it has the Lord of the Rings credits. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it's the whole kind of movie kind of came about where before this we did commercial corporate work, and we were kind of in Canada, and we were hired to do a series of mini docs, 5-minute docs on Winnipeg success stories. And one of them was Al Kaloka, this guy who made a game called Aquaria. And in 2007. Actually, I should mention that he made it with a partner, Derek Yu. In 2007, they won the biggest prize you could possibly win in independent gaming, the Seamus McNally, it's the Sundance of indie gaming. And we thought it was just going to be like a puff piece, you know, kind of like a guy made a game and, you know, that's kind of cool and this is what he did and this is his job. But the more we kind of talked to him, the more it turned out to be the story about a guy who started making this game and ended up with something much, much different.
It was supposed to be like mermaids, and it turned into like this dark exploration
of underwater depression.
Yeah.
And it was like this reflection of what he was going through in
and
his
it's
life.
beautiful. It's a really beautiful game, and it was just this in doing this piece on him, and it's not all in the piece that we created for the Manitoba government. Like it wasn't a depression piece for them, but it was just this like getting to know him and realizing that he was using games in the same way that we used film. He was expressing himself through the game, and that was new for us. And I know it's not new to like, you know, the whole community of game design and designers and developers out there, but that was something that we were interested in.
Yeah, and then you know, shortly after that, so that kind of got us thinking about, you know, just this whole world. And shortly after that, and actually the year before, we had been going down to the Game Developers Conference for like another kind of corporate commercial gig, and we kept on getting drawn to something called the Independent Game Summit. And basically, it's a whole bunch of panels, a whole bunch of indie guys going and telling their stories, and we just kind of heard story after story, just like Alec, of like guys who and girls that pour their life into a game and release it, and just how dramatic those stories were in making a game and how personal they were. And we were thinking, like, if we can get this on film, or if we could capture this process, like that's something that we'd want to watch, just as people who watch stuff. And then at the same time, we like looked around for game design documentaries, and there was nothing, which really surprised us, because, you know, games are huge. They're bigger than music, they're bigger than movies, and there's tons of documentaries on music and movies. We know how those things work, but when you look around for game design stuff, there was nothing. Like we wanted like the Helvetica or Objectified of game design. Yeah, and we thought, well, if it doesn't exist, and we were at this point in our careers where we wanted to do something bigger, we were like, let's go and do it. And so then we kind of, shot a test piece with Edmund and Tommy and put on Kickstarter, and that set in motion the next 2 years of our lives.
We thought it would take like 30 days or 60 days, even 2 months to make our goal, and our initial goal was 15,000 on Kickstarter. And we made it in less than 2 days. And $15,000 isn't a lot of money to make a documentary. It costs a lot more. But that moment, that sort of validation from all these people is what propelled us, like, and changed our lives, really. And then we did another Kickstarter, and that worked out really well. And that's how we got here, because we ran out of money. Yeah. So that's the long story.
Did you guys show the film to all the guys that were in it?
Oh, yeah. It was really important to us before we showed anyone, actually. We showed it to them. So we flew to Montreal, then we flew to Santa Cruz and San Francisco, and showed it to the guys, because we needed them to be comfortable with it, because it's their lives, and they're extremely vulnerable in it, and they share a lot. And we were really scared to show it. But they ended up loving it and really, really seeing the value of sharing their stories, because they know what it's like to kind of, you know, tell people that they work on games and people not getting it at all. And so, and you could kind of explain the process like step by step, but still people just don't get it. And so this movie, I think, is kind of like one step further in that conversation, and they kind of see value in that. And like, I know Edmund and Tommy, like one of the main reasons they wanted to be part of the documentary was to kind of like inspire other aspiring game developers and you know, kids, because Edmund has tons of stories about people like in his life that played a very direct role in inspiring him to be creative, and he kind of wanted to, you know, give back to that, and saw the documentary as part of that giving back. And so we showed it to them, and they cried in a very nice, joyous way, and that we cried that they were crying, and it was all good, and they were comfortable. They were good with it, uncomfortable with some parts, obviously, because it's got to be like the most surreal home video you've ever watched in your life, you know? Like you're watching yourself go through the most stressful moments of your life, and it's filmed with 2 cameras, and edited together, and color corrected, and has music, and augmenting graphics, and it's just weird. It's got to be very, very weird. But yeah, they liked it. Yeah, right there, go ahead.
What were the main differences between the designers and the programmers? Because the way you portrayed it, it seemed like the designers were much more open to being filmed and expressing their ideas, and the programmers seemed more introverted and more volatile, and to put it in a cliche, I guess emotionally disturbed.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, no, I don't think they were very open and very, very candid. But I think actually probably when we got into a lot of the programming talk, it got a little too technical for what we wanted to do with the film. Like one of the kind of like the balancing things that we were doing with this film is that we never wanted to talk over or under our audience. Like we wanted it to be nice and fulfilling and good for people who are familiar with gaming, but we also wanted to keep it accessible. And when we got deeper with the programming side, it then got a little too esoteric, and that's something that we kind of always wanted to avoid. But yeah, no, it's that's
Like
interesting.
John and Tommy are both programmers. Yeah, Tommy gets pretty intense in the film because it's a pretty intense period for him, and I think at the beginning you see him talk about like the things that he enjoyed about games, and we see that, but we also filmed that at a point where he was working 20 hours a day, and so his his enthusiasm level was a little low. But yeah, that's an interesting point that you found both the programmers volatile. I've never thought of it that way, but maybe
the
it comes
designers are,
across.
like Phil's a designer and Edmund's a designer, and Edmund's actually pretty even keeled. Like he has a good sensibility about. So yeah, I think everyone's kind of volatile, aren't they?
Yeah, right next to him. Go ahead.
Yeah. Aside from the developers present in the film itself, are there other developers who you would possibly consider documenting in the film?
Yeah, so we interviewed about 20 developers as we were making the film. Initially, we announced the project on Kickstarter 2 years ago yesterday, and we had an idea of what we wanted to do, but we hadn't really discovered what the project was, and so we shot a lot. We shot 300 hours, and as I hear, that's a lot of documentary and shoot a lot too. So. Yeah, so we shot a lot, and we explored and interviewed and saw how people were on camera and saw like where their stories were and like the chronology of when we were shooting. And then it just sort of turned out that Super Meat Boy and Fez were in development right when we were shooting, and that sort of worked out timing-wise. But we filmed with other developers like Ron Carmel of World of Goo, if you're familiar, or Steph
Jason
Quirion
Rohr.
of Alice.
Genova Chen.
We went to like Jason Rohr's home, and like it's weird. We did all these trips that actually don't show on screen, but like we went to like New Mexico, where Jason Rohr, this developer who created these sort of really epic art games, lived kind of in the ghetto. Like it was like these are things that you explore as a filmmaker, and then you spend all this time creating them, and then you realize it doesn't fit in your film. And so we're making a special edition with all the other characters that we had filmed with.
Yeah, in the back. Go ahead.
You sort of already answered the question with the last question, but is there any like one-off moment or story that you didn't want to just put in a movie, but didn't fit thematically with the rest of it?
Yeah, kind
There's like a bunch. Like James and I both edit, and so we took so we have these 20, like probably seriously about 12 characters, and we both edit different parts of the movie and different parts of the storyline, and then we'd like get together and we'd be really passionate about those parts, and we'd argue until we would figure out what made it into the movie. And in the end, we filmed with lots of people, and only 4 people are in the movie, so it was kind of like a gauntlet of figuring out what it would be about.
Yeah, but the one I'm thinking about, like, is like when Edmund's on the steps at the end. That conversation actually went on for like another 40 minutes,
Oh,
and we actually got into like some really, really emotional stuff. That's actually even more emotional than what you saw in the end. And we struggled with whether or not to keep it in, because basically you have the moment on the steps where Edmund kind of, like comes to realization that he might be inspiring others, and it kind of really hits him hard, and then we kept on talking, and he gets hit even harder with other stuff, and at some point we had it in there, and it seemed like it was a very emotional moment, but it seemed like it was like a producer moment. It was kind of like, okay, let's make him cry again type of thing, and that was like one of, like we just had to take it out because it just didn't fit at all. Like it felt like we wanted to share it because it was like this wonderful, beautiful moment.